If you're watching this, it means we never made it out. I should start at the beginning, but honestly, the beginning feels so far away now. Back then, everything was normal, too normal. It was one of those late summer nights when the air is thick with heat, the car windows are rolled down, and the sound of your friend's laughter drowns out the hum of the engine. We weren't thinking about anything serious. No dark omens, no sense of danger. Just music blaring from a half-broken speaker, energy drinks stacked in the back seat, and that restless urge to drive further than we needed to, just because we could. There were 4 of us, me behind the wheel, Tyler in the passenger seat, and Jess and Brandon squeezed into the back. We joked about the dumbest things, argued over playlists, and pointed at the stars like we'd never seen them before. That's how light it all felt. Easy. Stupid. Safe. And then we missed the exit. It wasn't dramatic. No screeching tires, no sudden wrong-way sign. Just one of those quiet mistakes. Tyler distracted me with a story, and by the time I realized the sign had flashed by, we were already too far. No big deal, I remember saying. We'll find another way. Back roads are more fun anyway. At first, it was. The highway glow faded into narrow country roads, cutting between endless stretches of cornfields and forests. The GPS spun its wheel like it couldn't keep up, then froze. The bars of signal on my phone shrank and disappeared. Still, none of us cared. We were too busy laughing at Brandon's bad jokes, just humming off key. Then the road started to change. The asphalt grew rougher, cracking into patches of gravel. Streetlights became fewer until there were none at all. A thin fog crept across the headlights, at first like mist off the fields, but soon too thick to make sense. When I slowed the car, I realized something strange. No other vehicles passed us. Not one. Just miles of empty road that seemed to stretch longer the more we drove. Did we take a wrong turn? Jess asked. Her voice sounded small, like she already knew the answer. I told her not to worry, but I was starting to feel it too, that subtle shift when fun turns into unease. The signs by the roadside weren't helping. They looked old, like relics, the paint faded into ghostly shapes. One pointed toward a town none of us had ever heard of, the name smeared and weathered. The arrow curved sharply left, into a darker patch of fog. Tyler leaned forward, squinting. That's weird. This road isn't even on the map. We should have turned around then. But there's something about curiosity, about the thrill of the unknown, that tricks you into mistaking danger for adventure. So I steered into the fog. And that was when we first saw it. Lights ahead. Dim, flickering, scattered like stars across a horizon that shouldn't have been there. A town, waiting where no town should exist. We thought it was just a detour, but it was the last real choice we ever made. At first glance, it looked almost normal. That was the worst part, how ordinary it tried to seem. The fog peeled back as we rolled closer, revealing narrow streets lined with storefronts. Old brick buildings stood shoulder to shoulder, some with faded paint flaking off in curls, others oddly pristine like they'd been scrubbed just yesterday. Neon signs buzzed faintly, but half the letters were missing. A grocery store spelled fresh MRKE in sputtering tubes of red light. A diner advertised milkshakes for 25 cents, like we'd slipped decades backward. What the hell is this place? Tyler muttered, leaning closer to the windshield. I slowed down, letting the car crawl forward. Something was wrong. The whole town felt mismatched. Architecture didn't line up. A Victorian house sat crammed between 2 low 1960s motels. A pharmacy looked like it hadn't changed since the Great Depression, right next door to a video rental shop that should have gone extinct 20 years ago. It was like someone had taken pieces of different towns, from different times, and stitched them together without caring if the seams showed. Brandon let out a low whistle. Yo, it's like a movie set. This has to be a prank. Some TikTok thing. But there were no cameras. No cars either. Not a single parked vehicle along the cracked sidewalks, not even an old rusted one on blocks. And yet, there were people. They moved through the streets in strange, deliberate ways, like clockwork toys wound up and let loose. A man in overalls swept the same spot of pavement over and over, the broom bristles already worn down to nothing. A woman in a floral dress carried a paper bag full of groceries, but the bag never seemed to tear, never seemed to get heavy. Children skipped rope on the corner, their voices low and monotone, repeating the same nursery rhyme without laughter. Jess pressed her face against the window. "Do you see that? They're not looking at us." She was right. Not one head turned as we drove past. It was as if we didn't exist, like the town kept on with its routine whether we were there or not. Okay, nope. I forced a laugh, trying to sound braver than I felt. This is giving me step 4 vibes. We should bounce. But of course, none of us were ready to leave. Curiosity tugged at us, that itch you can't stop scratching. The more wrong it felt, the more we wanted to understand it. Tyler pointed toward the diner. Its neon open sign flickered unevenly, fighting against the fog. "Let's just check it out. Grab a coffee, ask for directions. 5 minutes, tops." Jess shook her head immediately. No way. Haven't you guys seen horror movies? This is literally how people die. Brandon grinned, too wide, like he thought he was untouchable. Come on, Jess. Don't be paranoid. It's just a town. What's the worst that could happen? I didn't answer him, because I was staring at a billboard across the street. At first, I thought it was just another faded ad. But the closer I looked, the more my stomach dropped. It wasn't advertising soda or cigarettes, it was a missing person poster, stretched across the entire board. A boy's smiling face, eyes frozen in cheerful innocence. Beneath it, bold letters read, "Have you seen me?" Except the date on the poster wasn't from decades ago. It was from 2 weeks back. My voice cracked when I pointed it out. "Guys, look." We sat there in silence, the engine idling, staring up at the child's photo until the fog thickened and blurred his smile into something sinister. Jess whispered, "We need to go." But my hand stayed on the wheel, frozen. Because a part of me wanted to know more. Needed to. Where were the cars? Why did the buildings feel patched together from other lives? Why were the people acting like broken records? And why, in a town that looked forgotten by time, was a child's face asking for help just weeks ago? I should have listened to Jess. We all should have. We should have turned around right then, but curiosity has killed more than just cats. The bell above the diner door jingled as we stepped inside, and for a moment it almost felt normal. Booths lined the windows, the smell of coffee lingered, and an old jukebox hummed in the corner. But the place was too still. Too clean. Every glass gleamed like it had never been touched. A waitress in a faded pink uniform approached, smiling wide. "Table for 4, she asked, her voice bright but strangely flat, like she was reading from a script. "Ah, yeah," I said, sliding into a booth. Tyler cracked a grin, trying to break the tension. "Bet they have pie. Places like this always have pie." The waitress nodded once, pen hovering over her pad. "Pie. Coffee. Specials." She didn't ask what kind of pie, just scribbled something and walked off, her smile never shifting. Brandon snorted. "Robotic much?" But when the coffee came, hot and steaming, it was real. Too real. Bitter, dark, like it had been brewed for hours. Tyler leaned toward the counter, eyeing a man in suspenders arranging sugar packets one by one. "Hey, excuse me. What town is this?" The man looked up, smiled politely. "Our town." "Yeah, but what's it called?" His smile didn't change. Our town. And then he went back to stacking sugar, over and over, as if that was the only thing that mattered. Jess shifted uncomfortably. Nope. Nope, I hate this. We tried asking more where the highway was, if there was a motel nearby, even the date. Every answer came back clipped, repetitive, as if they'd been trained to avoid specifics. Finally, the shopkeeper behind the counter, an older man with cloudy eyes, leaned toward us. His voice dropped to a whisper. You shouldn't be here. Not after sundown. The room went quiet. Even the jukebox seemed to hush. Tyler forced a laugh. Ah, why? What happens at sundown? The old man's gaze drifted toward the window, where the sky was already dimming, clouds bleeding orange. His hand trembled as he set down a chipped mug. The sun always sets differently here. I felt my stomach twist. What do you mean by that? He shook his head quickly, like he'd already said too much. Eat your pie. Then leave. Before we could press him, the waitress reappeared, plates in hand, smile frozen in place. Enjoy, she chirped. The old man stiffened and turned away, retreating to the shelves as if hiding. We sat there in silence, staring at the untouched pie. Brandon tried to lighten the mood. Probably just a local superstition. Like, don't whistle at night or whatever. But his voice cracked, betraying him. Outside, the streets buzzed faintly, the locals still moving in their endless loops. A child skipped rope, counting the same 3 numbers over and over. A man pushed an empty stroller back and forth, his eyes hollow. Jess's hands tightened around her fork. I'm serious. We need to leave. Now. I wanted to agree. My whole body screamed at me to agree. But Tyler leaned back, smirking. Come on. Aren't you curious? This place is like Twilight Zone meets Silent Hill. We can't just bail. Twilight Zone episodes usually end with people dead, Jess snapped. The debate sparked, voices rising, fear tangled with adrenaline. Stay and explore or get up before sundown. I looked around the diner one last time. Everyone smiled, everyone moved, but not one person's eyes met ours. They weren't ignoring us. They were pretending we weren't there. And that felt worse than anything. We left the diner just as the last orange streaks of daylight bled out across the horizon. The air had grown thicker, heavier, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Jess tugged at my arm. Look at the sky. I did, and my chest went cold. The sun wasn't setting the way it should. It didn't slide gently down behind the hills, fading into twilight. No, here it seemed to drop, jerking lower in unnatural bursts, like frames skipping in a broken film reel. Each lurch plunged the town into deeper shadow, too fast, too sudden. That's not right, Brandon whispered. We all froze as a church bell tolled in the distance. Deep, metallic, dragging. But the church itself, we passed it earlier, had been boarded up, windows shattered. The sound echoed anyway, rolling through the streets as though someone, or something, wanted to announce the night. Then it began. Doors slammed shut in rapid succession. Bang! 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 Curtains snapped closed. Footsteps quickened, fading into silence. The once bustling sidewalks emptied until only our car remained idling under the flickering diner sign. Tyler forced a laugh, but it cracked halfway through. Okay, so they've got some weird town-wide curfew thing. No big deal. Jess shook her head violently. No big deal? They're hiding. You saw that old man, he tried to warn us. Her words barely left her mouth when I noticed something. The shadows. They weren't behaving right. Streetlights buzzed to life, their glow pale and sickly. But instead of pushing the darkness back, the shadows only grew longer, stretching out across the pavement like grasping fingers. They moved against the light, bending in ways that made no sense, reaching toward us as if they'd noticed we were still there. Brandon's voice dropped. "We need to leave. Now!" We piled into the car, doors slamming, hearts hammering. I jammed the key, engine roaring as I threw it into drive. The headlights cut across the road, but the fog thickened instantly, swallowing the beams whole. That was when the bell rang again, closer this time. Louder. "Where the hell is that coming from?" Tyler demanded, eyes darting. I didn't answer. Because just then, I saw something move. A figure, far down the street, standing perfectly still in the glow of a single flickering lamp. Too tall. Too thin. Its shadow stretched longer than the road itself, writhing like it was alive. Jess whimpered, curling into herself. "Don't stop. Don't stop." I pressed harder on the gas, but the road seemed to pull us back, looping endlessly past the same storefronts, the same boarded church, the same missing poster grinning down at us from the billboard. "That's impossible," I hissed. The figure disappeared. Then another bell. Another shadow lengthening. It hit me all at once, the old man's words, the town's silence, the way the sun dropped like it was being forced down. There was only one rule here, the kind whispered through a cracked smile and never written down. And that was when we learned there was only one rule in this town: don't be outside when the sun goes down. Of course, we were already too late. Darkness swallowed us whole. The headlights might as well have been candles, their beams smothered by the fog that clung to every surface. The streets we'd driven earlier, empty but intact, were shifting before our eyes. Buildings warped in the corners of my vision, stretching taller or shrinking squat, like they were inhaling and exhaling in unison. Windows blinked open and shut as if the town itself was watching. And then came the whispers. At first, they sounded like the wind, curling between the alleys and under the doors. But soon the words took shape, our names. Each of us, whispered in voices that didn't belong to anyone we knew. Brandon snapped his head toward the back seat. "Did you hear that?" Jess pressed her hands over her ears. "Stop. Don't listen. Don't." Her voice cut off with a scream. Something had brushed against the window beside her. I caught only a glimpse, a handprint, too long, too thin, smeared across the glass before fading into black. I floored the gas, but the car jerked, shuddered, then died as if the engine had been strangled. Silence fell, except for the whispers. That's when I saw them. Figures. Dozens of them, maybe more, emerging from the fog. They didn't move like people. Their limbs bent wrong, jerky and twitching, like marionettes tangled in their own strings. Some crawled on all fours, spines arching unnaturally. Their faces. God, their faces looked blurred, like photographs smeared by wet hands, features sliding in and out of place. Jess sobbed openly. Tyler gritted his teeth, fumbling with the door handle. "We can't stay in the car. They'll trap us." He wasn't wrong. Shadows were gathering, pressing against the windows until the glass creaked. I threw the door open, and the four of us bolted into the night. If you've ever felt like someone's behind you while walking home, heart pounding, footsteps echoing just a little too close, that's the closest you'll get to what we felt. Except in our case, when we turned to look, there was something there. Dozens of somethings, closing in. We ran blindly through streets that wouldn't stay the same. Turn left, and a row of houses collapsed into a single brick wall. Turn right, and the diner was suddenly ahead again, neon sputtering though we'd left it blocks behind. The town was folding in on itself, reshaping, trapping us like rats in a maze. Over there. Brandon pointed toward an alley. We squeezed through, lungs burning, shoes pounding broken pavement. The whispers grew louder, overlapping until they became a chant. My name, over and over, spilling from mouths I couldn't see. Then the ground shifted beneath us. Literally. Bricks cracked open, stone bending like clay. Jess stumbled, screaming, as something reached from the Fisher fingers, pale and jointless, clawing at her ankles. Tyler grabbed her, yanking hard, barely pulling her free. We didn't stop running. But Brandon did. One moment he was behind us, the next his footsteps were gone. I turned just in time to see him standing at the mouth of the alley, frozen. A tall shadow loomed over him, stretching impossibly long against the wall. Brandon didn't fight. He didn't scream. He just disappeared. Swallowed whole, the shadow snapping shut like a curtain. Brandon. Jess's voice shattered. Tyler pulled her forward, forcing her to run. We can't go back. I wanted to argue. To scream. To fight. But the truth was already sinking in, the town had taken him. And if we stopped, it would take us too. We burst into an open square I didn't remember seeing before. A fountain stood in the center, bone dry, carved with symbols I couldn't recognize. Around it, the figures gathered, circling like vultures. Their whispers swelled, shaking the air itself. Jess clung to me, trembling. We're not getting out. We're not. I didn't let her finish. We will. I had to believe it, even if it was a lie. The fountain groaned, stone grinding as if something beneath it wanted out. The shadows thickened, walls closing, figures drawing nearer. My chest felt like it would split. Every instinct screamed that this was the end. But then, there was movement. A light flickering beyond the square, faint but real, like a candle in the storm. Tyler's eyes locked with mine. A way out, he rasped. It has to be. We ran toward it, every step chased by whispers, shadows, and the memory of Brandon's empty place beside us. And maybe we did find a way out. Or so we thought. The light led us to the edge of town, back to the car we thought we'd abandoned. The headlights flickered weakly, the engine purring like nothing had happened. It was impossible we'd left it dead in the street, but at that point, I didn't care. We threw ourselves inside, doors slamming, hearts still hammering. I floored it, wheels screeching against the cracked road. The figures melted into the fog behind us, and for a moment, hope clawed its way back into my chest. The road stretched out clean and straight. Signs pointed toward highways I recognized: Route 47, I-90. Familiar names. The kind of comfort that makes you believe escape is possible. But 10 minutes later, we passed the same boarded-up church. Another 10, and the diner flickered into view, neon letters stuttering just as before. Jess groaned, tears spilling down her cheeks. No! No, we're going in circles. Tyler slammed his fist against the dashboard. I saw us turn right. I know we turned right. I forced a bitter laugh, words dripping with the kind of cynicism that keeps you from screaming. Turns out GPS can't save you from hell. We tried again. Every turn, every side street, every dirt path that looked like an exit. Each one dragged us back into the heart of town, like the streets themselves were bending, snapping us into place. Finally, Tyler shouted, "Forget the roads, let's just walk." If we cut through the woods, there has to be something past the tree line. So we left the car and plunged into the forest. Branches clawed at our arms, roots twisted under our feet, but we pushed forward. We walked until our legs ached, until the town should have been miles behind us. And then we stumbled out of the trees, right back onto Main Street. The same fountain. The same cracked pavement. Jess collapsed against the curb, sobbing. We're never leaving. It won't let us leave. That's when I noticed him. The old man from the diner, the one with the cloudy eyes, stood at the corner, watching. His expression was unreadable, but there was something almost sorry about it. He stepped closer, king tapping softly against the ground. I told you not to stay past sundown. Tyler leapt to his feet. What the hell is this place? His voice cracked, half fury, half terror. Why are we here? The man sighed, shoulders sagging. The town chooses. It always chooses. And once it's chosen, it does not let go. Jess stared at him through tear-streaked eyes. Chosen for what? But the old man only shook his head. You wouldn't understand. Not yet. I forced myself to meet his gaze. Then tell us how to leave. For a long moment, he was silent. Then, finally, there is a way. Always a way. But, his voice dropped to a rasp. It comes with a cost. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of cost? His cloudy eyes flicked toward the fog, where the blurred figures still prowled, whispering our names. The town must keep one. Silence fell. Jess's voice trembled. Keep one, you mean one of us? The old man didn't answer. He didn't have to. Tyler cursed under his breath, pacing in frantic circles. No. No way. That's insane. But the truth settled over us like the fog, thick, suffocating, undeniable. If he was right, then escape wasn't about outrunning the town. It was about paying the toll. The old man turned, cane scraping the pavement. Decide quickly. The night doesn't last forever, but it takes more than dawn to end it. Jess reached for me, her grip desperate. We can't do this. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt raw, my mind spinning. Because in that moment, it wasn't just about leaving. It was about who wouldn't. We thought we could bargain with this place. We were wrong. The old man's words clung to us like the damp fog, sinking deeper the longer we tried to ignore them. The town must keep one. It wasn't a warning, it was a sentence. We sat in the hollow quiet of the car, headlights dimmed, fog pressing against the windows. Nobody spoke at first. Nobody wanted to. But silence has a way of breaking people faster than screams. Tyler was the first to crack. We're not doing this, he hissed. I don't care what that freak said. We stick together. Nobody gets left behind. Jess's laugh was sharp, almost manic. Oh, that's rich, Ty. What happens when the sun comes up and this place doesn't let us go? Ha! What if he was telling the truth? Then we fight, Tyler snapped. And fight what exactly? Jess's voice broke, her hands shaking as she pressed them against her face. The shadows? The whispers? We don't even know what we're up against. I kept my eyes on the steering wheel, knuckles white against the leather. Part of me wanted to believe Tyler, that we could punch our way out of hell if we just stayed united. But another part, the part still hearing that man's raspy voice, knew better. The town didn't care about our loyalty. It wanted balance. A toll. Paranoia crept in quick. Jess's sobs turned to suspicion, her eyes darting between us. Maybe it doesn't matter what we decide. Maybe the town already has. Tyler slammed his fist against the dashboard. Shut up. Don't tell me to shut up, she shot back, tears streaking her cheeks. You've been acting like some big hero, but maybe you're just trying to survive like the rest of us. Maybe you'd give me up if it meant saving yourself. Tyler's face twisted. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit her. I cut in, my voice low but sharp. Enough. This is what it wants, us tearing each other apart. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure if I believed myself. The air in the car felt wrong. Too heavy. Too close. Then, a sound. A door creaked. We all froze. Jess's seat was empty. 1 second she'd been right there beside me, trembling and furious. The next, nothing but her jacket crumpled against the upholstery. No footsteps. No scream. Just absence. Tyler's mouth fell open. "Jess." His voice was barely a whisper. He fumbled for the door handle, half stumbling out into the fog. "Jess, where are you?" I followed, my breath clouding the air, but there was no trace of her. No footprints on the damp pavement. No echo of her voice. Just the steady hush of a town that had taken what it wanted. Tyler spun on me, wild-eyed. "You saw her." "She didn't leave, she was taken." I couldn't answer. My throat felt raw, my chest hollow. Because deep down, I knew the truth, the town had made its choice. And maybe that was the cost the old man meant. Not a decision we made, but one forced on us. We stood there, listening to the silence. For the first time, I realized the whispers were gone. The shadows at the edge of the fog had retreated. The air felt lighter, almost breathable. It had taken her, and it was satisfied. Tyler fell to his knees, hands gripping his hair. His voice cracked, broken. "She didn't deserve this, she didn't." I wanted to tell him none of us did. But the words never left my mouth. Because even as relief seeped in, even as the dawn began to hint on the horizon, I felt something else. A pull. A weight. A promise that this wasn't over. The town had claimed one of us. But the town wasn't done with us yet. Even after we made our choice, the town kept following us. We drove in silence. Not the uneasy quiet of before, but something heavier, final. Jess's absence filled every corner of the car, pressing on us like a weight we couldn't shake. Tyler stared out the window, hollow-eyed, lips moving without sound. I didn't ask what he was whispering. I didn't want to know. The road stretched ahead, and for the first time since that wrong turn, there was movement. The fog thinned. Trees looked like trees again, not twisted silhouettes. A green highway sign flickered into sight, reflective paint catching the beams of our headlights. Route 19 eastbound. Normal. Real. Familiar. Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed, but it came out strangled, half sob, half joke. We were back. We'd done it. Somehow, we'd made it out. But the longer we drove, the less certain I became. For one, the clock on the dash didn't make sense. What felt like hours in that town had eaten entire days. My phone was dead, battery drained despite not being used. Tyler's too. When we stopped at a gas station, blessedly ordinary, fluorescent lights humming, cashier scrolling on a phone, I asked what day it was. The man squinted at me like I was slow. "It's Thursday." But the last time I checked, it had been Monday. We fueled up in silence, neither of us daring to speak what we were both thinking. That time itself had bent around that place. That the world had kept moving while we were trapped. It wasn't until I walked back to the car that I saw the scratches. Long, jagged gouges down the passenger side, deep enough to cut the paint. I ran my fingers over them, felt the metal warp beneath. Like something with claws had tried to peel its way in. Tyler saw them too. He didn't say a word, just looked at me with eyes that said everything. We drove on, following signs, trying to anchor ourselves back into reality. But then I unfolded the free map I'd grabbed from the station counter. My hands froze. There it was. Tiny print, tucked between state routes and rivers, Coldbrook Township. A place that shouldn't exist. A place we had been told would never let us go. I dropped the map like it burned me, heart pounding so hard it shook my chest. And now, I can't stop wondering. Did we really leave? Or did the town just let us believe we had, for a while? Sometimes at night, I swear I still hear the church bell. Sometimes, I catch myself seeing figures in the corner of my vision when I drive alone. So if you're listening, if you've ever been on Route 19, check your mirrors. Look twice at the signs. And if you ever find yourself near a town that isn't supposed to be there, Don't take the wrong turn. I've told you everything I could. At least, everything I dared to. There are pieces of that night, images, sounds, things Jess said before she was gone that I've left out. Not because I forgot, but because speaking them out loud feels like opening a door I barely managed to close. Some truths are like that. They don't just haunt you, they follow anyone who listens. So consider this story a warning. A map of sorts. Enough to keep you away from the roads that don't belong on any GPS, from towns that flicker in and out of existence like a bad signal. But not enough to drag you all the way in. If you've ever heard of places like this, roads that bend the wrong way, towns that shouldn't be on any map, I want you to share them. Drop them in the comments. Compare notes. I'll be watching. Because I need to know if we were the only ones, or if the town has claimed others, too. And if you think this was just a story, just another creepypasta, remember this. The road is still out there. Waiting.